In a coastal city of dark basalt, people mapped storms with prayer and ink, not maps. They said Zeus had a temper like summer lightning. They said Athena carried order in her spine. But that day, the sea brought a stranger. Not a monster at first. Just a woman with a calm gaze and salt in her hair, moving like she belonged to the tide. They called her Medusa, though her name travelled in different mouths. In one market, she was a sea widow. In another, a traveller cursed by a jewelled court. The truth was messy, like surf against stone. She was trying to warn them. Her eyes were not a weapon by choice. They were a mirror that showed what the viewer had been hiding. Across the harbour, Perseus arrived with a mission that did not fit his hands. The locals offered him tools. Some were practical, some were spiritual. A fisher gave him a bronze net for catching fish and for catching panic. An old scribe gave him a small tablet of polished slate to reflect without killing. Perseus nodded, grateful, until the wind changed. Zeus descended, not as a lightning bolt, but as a pressure in the air. The clouds grew heavy and impatient. The fishermen dropped their baskets. Athena followed, quieter than thunder, wearing the look of a strategist who hates chaos. She saw Medusa first, then she saw the fear around Medusa, fear that had teeth even when no monster was present. Zeus spoke like storms speak. He demanded obedience. He wanted the city to look up at him. Athena did not. She stepped between Zeus and Medusa and made a point. Not with violence, but with geometry. She drew lines in ash, showing where bolts could fall, where crowds would run, where a fragile warning could turn into a stampede. Medusa listened, and for a moment her calm broke open. Her voice carried stories, not threats. She said the curse did not begin with her face. It began with how people treated what they could not understand. She said she was tired of becoming a lesson for other people's comfort. Zeus surged forward, aiming for the center of the harbor. Athena moved with him, turning his path into an angle. She lifted her shield, the surface bright enough to hold reflection without burning it. The polished metal became a second sky. Perseus watched the sky too, but he watched it differently. He held the slate tablet low. When Medusa looked toward him, he did not stare back. He let the reflection speak. In the mirror, her gaze was still powerful, but it showed him the shape of his own dread. He saw the moment he wanted to turn people into statues, because statues are easier than hearts. Athena noticed that shift. Her eyes narrowed, not at Medusa, but at Perseus. She challenged him to choose control without cruelty. She did not forbid force. She demanded precision. She signaled him to move, not toward Medusa's face, but toward the choice he could undo. Zeus struck the ash lines, scattering burning dust. Athena used the heat like a moving compass. She rerouted the storm's momentum away from the crowd. Medusa moved through the confusion, not chasing anyone. She reached for the city's warning jars, the ones the scribes filled after every near miss with names of what went wrong. Her hands shook. She pulled a jar free and shouted a message that cut through the panic. The sea was not only angry, it was infected with a practice the city had adopted for profit. They poured dye from a coastal workshop into the shallows and called it harmless. The poison had spread into the fish, into the skin, into the birthmarks of children. The curse was not only in a woman's face, it was in the choices that framed her. Zeus recoiled at the accusation. The thunder in him wavered, because kings do not like blame that survives. Athena seized the moment. She addressed Zeus like a court teacher. She said, "You are not fighting a myth. You are fighting consequences." Perseus acted, but his action changed. He did not chase Medusa's eyes. He took the reflection, then aimed his blade toward the jar Medusa held, toward the source of the story that had been locked away. The strike shattered the glass. The sea air cleared with the scent of bitter herbs that the locals used for cleansing. Medusa exhaled. Her face, still altered, softened around the edges. She was not cured in an instant. Curses do not care about timing, but the gaze that petrified became less absolute, because the city stopped asking for easy villains. People lowered their eyes. They looked at each other instead of at the threat. Zeus, seeing the crowd breathe, felt the loss of control. His rage tried to return, but Athena held the lines steady in her shield. She reminded everyone that power without purpose becomes spectacle. Perseus lifted his slate tablet one last time, catching Medusa's reflection. In that mirrored look, he understood the rule he had missed. Do not turn fear into a weapon. The storm withdrew, not defeated, but redirected. The harbour did not become a statue garden, it became a workshop again. Fishermen carried nets. Scribes wrote new warnings. Medusa stood at the edge of the tide, still marked by what had happened, but no longer used as a banner for someone else's certainty. Zeus and Athena did fight, yes, yet the fight was not only about who wins. It was about who learns fast enough to keep a city alive.